Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies and gents, all I can say is I haven't seen it before. I mean, I've looked, I've researched, I've gone through the auspices of my mind, and I cannot find it. I cannot find a single time because Hamas has sent over 2,000 rockets, and never once has one of their rockets destroyed an entire building. But they keep producing evidence. They say as evidence that it was definitely fired from Hamas. Here's the question. Now, I want y'all to pay attention. If it was fired from Hamas, it took out an entire building, flattened it. If Hamas had that type of power, can you imagine how much different their rockets would have on that so-called dome? That dome only protects against the rockets made by Iran, sent to Hamas and Hezbollah. So ask yourself a question. Why is it all of a sudden now they're claiming that they've gotten rockets from North Korea and that the one that they did use, the only one, exploded on a hospital and destroyed the whole building? Something just ain't right. Oh, well, something just ain't right. And Google deciding to remove my video because they said it was, we believe that it violates our policy on misinformation. They believed. So when I appealed it, they only gave me 100 characters to appeal. Ladies and gentlemen, that's like a sentence and a half. And then they said denied, like there's some judge or something. So please understand, something just ain't right. You see, they all of a sudden was in a hurry, came to the rescue, said, hey, we believe it was an errant missile from her. Well, how come they didn't say that about any of the other explosions? Go ahead. All the other explosions, they've already hit a hospital before, killed an entire staff. Think it was Indonesians? Just blew them up. 19 different medical staff. They've been bombing hospitals. Hamas hasn't been bombing hospitals. Go and take a look. Well, that's probably the reason why they did it. No. You don't get to go there. We need evidence and method of operations. MO. What is the MO? Well, Israel. Everybody says you got to be for Israel. If you ain't for Israel, you taking a side, and now you got to get on out of here. Get me a rope. No, this ain't no purgante. Get me a rope. Okay, that's what they say. They say that you are not allowed to speak against this war. I just read 2 articles yesterday that said that the United States was at war in Ukraine and they were at war in the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, can you tell me, when did the United States go to war in Ukraine and when did they, officially go to war in the Middle East? Biden just did an interview that I watched where he said that the United States is fully capable of handling these 2 wars and protecting their national defense. Really? The United States is fully capable of handling the 2 wars. See, they said they're in war and protecting the defense of the United States. So when did the United States get involved in this holy war? That's right. They called it a holy war in the Middle East. What's the United States got to do with Hamas and Israel? The United States is supposed to be one of them Christian countries. So why are they involved in a holy war in the Middle East? Something just ain't right. Keith Sweat, it just ain't right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to be accused of misinformation, so I'm going to start asking questions. That's all I'm going to do. If Hamas sent over initially 2,000 rockets, we know they said they've done a whole lot more since then. How come they ain't talked about no failed rockets destroying no buildings before? It just got to happen one time. It only takes a minute. Anyway, it only takes one time. One time. And the one time it happened, look at the devastation. By the way, somebody has questioned. They said the hospital can only fit about 80 beds. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a basement in that hospital. Shh, don't tell nobody. They had reported the day before, as rumors would have it, that there were Hamas tunnels underneath the hospital. They said that, and remember the school they destroyed? They destroyed the school too. Said there were tunnels underneath the school, and they hit both the school and the hospital. Was that both Hamas for the school and the hospital? Now remember, go back to the beginning. They had already hit a hospital before. I told you about the Indonesian staff. They had already hit a hospital before. I told you about the Indonesian staff. They had already hit a hospital before. I told you about the Indonesian staff. That's a video they took down, by the way. And hold on. And they've already destroyed a school. Now remember, this last one was a school and a refugee camp. They told the people in Palestine, hey, y'all need to go to the south. Nope, y'all can't stay here. We're getting ready to bomb. And the minute they did that, guess what they did? Y'all wouldn't believe this. Well, they bombed the school. They bombed the refugee camp that they told the people to flee to. Now that is setting the victims up for the slaughter. Like I said, you gotta love it. Something just ain't right. Now, mind you, everything I said, go and check the reports. Don't take my word for it. All I'm doing is asking questions. How could this happen? How could this happen that the bombings were happening in the place they were telling the people to flee? And they haven't denied those. They haven't said those were errant missiles. By the way, what you all don't understand is that they did give a warning. They did give a warning that they were going to strike the hospital. The people didn't believe it. They didn't have no place else to go. There is no shelter. So they all sheltered in a hospital. You can see that many people sheltering in a hospital. They're claiming it could only fit 80 beds. That's a lie. Pay attention, that hospital had been around for over 100 years. We know that it could fit more than 80 beds. We know that there were renovations done. Shh, don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody. They want you to believe that that hospital remained the same, like in the United States, it was a historical site and they couldn't make additions to it. No, that ain't the way things happen. If that was a main hospital, of course they've added to it. Of course it could seat more than 80 beds. Lord have mercy. Stop believing everything. You know, we have Google and the world conglomerate telling people what is and is not accurate information. Well, stop telling us what the truth is. Stop showing us photos and saying this is proof. Ladies and gentlemen, a photo isn't proof. A photo can be interpreted how many times? 1,000? Okay? There are 1,000 ways to look at a photo. 1,000. So why show people photos that can be doctored? Why not give people facts? Something just ain't right. Key Sweat. Something just ain't right. And all I can tell you is they're telling us what is and what isn't. Now, I remember there was one other time they did this. Well, there were many times they did this, but the last time they did this was the Iraqi and Afghanistanian wars. Because remember, they went into Iraq and they went into Afghanistan at the same time. Iraq and Afghanistan. Didn't do Saudi Arabia. Why didn't they do Saudi Arabia? Weren't all the people who they claim were hijackers Saudis? So why did they go into Afghanistan? I don't know. Still answering that question. And then we got building number 9. No, not number 9. Building number 7. See, they said it's disinformation to tell you that building number 7 fell. Well, go back and look. Type in building number 7, and 7 seconds. Count the seconds. 7 seconds. When a building falls, 7 seconds, that's called free fall. That means somebody really impacted that foundation. That's not because a plane fell on it. Okay? By the way, building number 7 wasn't impacted by a plane. Well, it was the debris from the World Trade Centers. That debris traveled a long ways to hit that building. And it's the only building in the history that was hit by debris and just completely collapsed. Especially when it had to meet all of those building standards of the state of New York and the federal government. Something just ain't right. Ladies and gentlemen, can somebody help me understand this? Because I was trying to understand and I don't get it. I don't get how all of this could be, because they keep telling us this is the reality, and they keep telling us you don't notice nothing else. Just focus on the light, and when you wake up, you're gonna be as white as rice. Not as right as rice, but as white as rice and as white as rain. Ladies and gentlemen, they're hypnotizing us. I believe they're hypnotizing us by all of this information that Google is telling us is not misinformation. It ain't even Mr. Information. It's just information. And they're just giving us information, and they're giving us the same information over and over again. And when you keep telling somebody something over and over again, the same stuff over and over again, and you're trying to program that into their heads, that's called brainwashing. I'm looking at reports and they keep repeating the same thing. The video was taken down. I did it before anybody else started talking about this stuff. And I talked about the misinformation that they were providing. I talked about it. Now we have a nation that can do no wrong. Why? Because the moment the United States speaks against Israel, Israel will point out what the United States did during the so-called 9/11 wars and all of that stuff. Why? Because they bombed whole villages. They bombed schools. They bombed neighborhoods. The United States did exactly what Israel is doing now. Don't believe me? Go back and look at the reports. It's a matter of history. It's a matter of history. They blew up whole families and convoys. Isn't that the same thing that was being reported now? They said that there was an attack on the American people. Amazing. So, something just ain't right. But unequivocally, full stop is what the man said. Unequivocally, full stop. You know he's got some issues, so y'all be gentle with the young man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a good day. I just thought I'd bring this to somebody's attention because I just had these questions on my mind. Perhaps somebody can help me answer my questions. Because asking questions cannot be misinformation, can it? All I'm doing is asking questions and pointing to factual history. But we have a censorship going on. We can't ask questions no more, y'all. They've taken away that ability. And YouTube says, no, if you don't follow our narrative, if you don't say what we want you to say, we're going to control you, and we're going to block you, and we're going to sit up there and not let you have a voice because you didn't agree with us. Ladies and gentlemen, the Administrative Procedures Act applies to Google. The Administrative Procedures Act says that Google must recognize that Constitution. Why? Well, because Google receives government subsidies, government monies, and remember, they receive government protection. So they must recognize the Constitution. Don't tell nobody, because even they don't know that, because nobody's ever brought that to their attention. You got to have somebody like me who understands that by law, as long as they receive government funding, like the states, when it comes to the definition of a motor vehicle, the state's definition does not apply. Because they receive government funding, the federal definition takes superior position over the state's definition of a motor vehicle. If you do yourselves a favor, Title 18, Section 31 explains what a motor vehicle is and what commercial use is under Section 6 and 10. Go and read it and then understand. As long as the state receives federal funding, that's the law that applies. Well, it's the same thing with Google and any other company. They want the government subsidies, they want the government protection, they want the immunity. Well, as long as you are relying on that federal blah, 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 you must recognize the federal constitution. Shh, don't tell nobody. So when Google wants to sit up there and control people's speech, or Twitter or anybody else wants to sit up there and control people's speech, that's where they lose it, because the First Amendment says that Congress has no authority. So Congress cannot give them protection from that, nor do they get their own protection from that. If they want to sit up there and operate in a public sphere, then they're going to have to recognize freedom of speech. It's not private property. Hey, have a good day, everybody. We'll talk.